Hello, welcome back. We are live once again with the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. So, let us continue with the jurors' contentions.
Well, man of logic, me. Having considered all the evidence, the defendant must be guilty.
I do agree that gas is far too expensive. I can quite understand why the man would want to avoid paying. The stuff explodes and it can poison you. It's absolutely lethal, gas is.
Gas doesn't come for free. It costs a fortune to deliver it around the city and maintain the pipes.
Special little boy.
Truth be told, the tea my wife sews up for me is a little sketchy at times.
Nothing else passed the victim's lips that night. There's no other explanation, is there?
I do feel that perhaps personal opinion.
Meant to say, there he is, our special sir. Really tired. I support you. Thank you, I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. I feel it.
I do feel that perhaps personal opinion about gas and its supply has influenced decisions somewhat. But never mind.
No, you really should mind. The truth is, our counter-argument wasn't as unassailable as we'd hoped. And Mr. Shamspeaaaare was poisoned. There can be no doubt of that. Then how are we supposed to turn this around? I think we need to establish the method by which Mr. Shamspeaaaare was actually poisoned. Our only hope is to demonstrate that to the court incontrovertibly. But that's surely almost impossible at this stage. If we don't manage it, though, Mr. Natsume will he be found guilty?
No delays, counsel. Proceed with the summation examination.
There he is back there with that smug grin on his face. The defense's rebuttal. Alright, let's press Mr. Fairplay here.
Hold it!
All the evidence, you say?
That's right, and there's no room for doubt. It's all pointing at that Japanese man with a big mustache.
Says the Englishman with the bigger mustache. Which means we need to show the man some new evidence to make him change his mind. If only we had that kind of evidence. Don't worry, this summation examination is barely started, really. Perhaps there'll be a shift in the situation that shows an existing piece of evidence in a new light. Let's hope so. To start with, though, we need to find some way out of this deadlock. This isn't the time or the place to be discussing the price of gas, madam. But really, think of the injustice. Air is a gas, and it's free. Why should Altamont gas cost money? It makes my blood boil. I can feel myself becoming more ruthless than ever. This isn't the time or the place to be ruthless, either.
If I might interject here.
Yes, madam. It seems my fellow juror takes issue with the price of our company charges for gas. But it's precisely because of thieves like this man that the cost goes up. Oh, what a beastly man. That unkempt mustache, those hunched shoulders, poisoning tea and stealing gas. Utterly unforgivable. No, wait a minute. You got it mixed up here. No, Mr. Natsume isn't the one who's been stealing gas. I'll thank you not to go adding on more crimes. Mr. Natsume hasn't been poisoning tea either. Well, anyway, I've quite made up my mind. It's as made up as the price of gas. The stuff explodes and it can poison you. It's absolutely lethal, gas is. So let's see. Could we please talk about the poison rather than the gas, do you think, sir? Well, if you like. I mean, to be honest, I'd take poison over gas every time. You'd take poison? What I mean is, poison can only poison you. It doesn't explode, does it?
Goodness me, what are you talking about? Set him straight, please, lawyer man.
Well, it's certainly true that poison isn't prone to exploding. But I think you'd find poison also can't light or heat up a room. Ah, you're right. Oh, no problem. Hadn't considered that at all. Young lawyer man. Yes. You have a good head on your shoulders. We could use someone like you as our company's legal representative. Well, I wasn't expecting to pick up more business in the middle of a trial, that's for sure. Anyway, the point is, I haven't had the best experience with gas companies in the past. Okay. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Gas doesn't come for free.
Hold it!
Okay. Can we please refrain from all this talk of gas? There's an all-out attack underway here, in case you hadn't noticed, against my company's gas. And I'm supposed to sit here and take it, am I? I don't think so. She's really buzzing now. All I've heard about our wonderful fuel is explosions and poisonings. What about electricity? What about getting electrocuted? What about that? Little explosion here and there is nothing in comparison.
Any explosion could hardly be described as nothing, madam. Nevertheless, the theft of your gas is deplorable.
My point, exactly. But the gas thieves aren't even the worst of our enemies. We have far more devious reprobates to contend with on a daily basis, you know? More devious? Who, madam? Other gas companies, of course. Other gas companies? Not quite what I was expecting. We generate gas and we deliver it to your customers fair and square.
Indeed, nobody's questioning that, madam. Altamont is an exemplary gas company.
But there are other unscrupulous gas companies here in London that don't even have any gas at all. What? But if they don't have any gas, how do they go about selling it to people? You wouldn't think it possible, would you? But they steal our gas, you see, and sell that. She does look like she's holding a bee. She's very bee-themed.
They steal your gas? How on earth is such a thing possible?
Gas companies like ours deliver gas to people's homes via a network of pipes. But these devious reprobates secretly disconnect our pipes and divert our gas into their own rotten pipes. Then they make a contract with the household supplied by those pipes and take money for the precious gas that's rightfully ours, without us even knowing. They're diverting gas into their own pipes illegally? What a brazen form of theft. When we visit customers' houses to collect the money from their meters, we always have to check whether or not one of those devious companies has been up to its tricks. Oh, hey.
Excuse me.
What are you saying? Do you have something to say about that, juror number 3? Oh, golly, you made me. I'm terribly sorry. I was just thinking to myself. I really did catch him off guard there. Thinking about what the lady next to you was saying, correct? Well, yes. I just got a little riled up about it recently, you see. Go on. Well, an Altamont gas worker visited my house the other day to investigate the pipework. We need to ask for your cooperation while we carry out a secret check of your property, sir, the fellow said. So I let him in. And do you know what he did? Afraid I have no idea. Please tell us. He proceeded to take one of my lights off the wall. Then he grabbed the exposed mouth of the pipe and started blowing into it. What do you think you're doing, young man? You're giving away company secrets there. Oh, please, everyone knows. It was very nearly the death of me, I can tell you. What do you mean?
I'll explain, if you don't mind. As I said before, these unscrupulous other gas companies connect their customers to our pipe network.
Yes, but how does blowing into the pipes come into it? Obviously, there's gas in the pipes, and it's at a fairly low pressure. By blowing air through the pipe, you could make the pressure drop temporarily. And if you do that, any lights connected to the same pipe will flicker for a moment.
Oh, I see. In other words, if upon blowing into the pipe, the lights of an adjacent property that has no contract with your company flicker, you can know that these devious scoundrels have been meddling with the pipes.
Exactly, my lord. That's it in a nutshell. It's the reason why we have teams of workers going around neighborhoods to investigate which lights flicker. The trouble is, the particular worker who came to my house didn't know the strength of his own breath. He blew down the pipe with all his might, and you can guess what happened, can't you? Well, if he blew hard, then... Wait, you mean... That's right, the lights didn't just flicker, they went out, along with the stove. Gas started pouring into the house. What a disaster. Those gas supply must have been interrupted briefly because the man blew too hard, so the flames went out. I'm afraid I yelled at the fellow. Are you trying to kill us all? I said. Wait. So by disconnecting a lamp and blowing into the exposed gas pipe, it's possible to extinguish lamps and stoves connected to the same network of pipes. And then when the gas starts flowing again, it just silently seeps into the room. Mr. Naruhodo, I think perhaps... Yes, this is almost certainly the clue that we've been hoping for. Juror number 3, the defense requests that you amend your statement to include that information. Oh, well, if you like. I don't mind. Well, I do. That's our company's secret method of identifying the rogues that try to diddle us. Like I said, madam, it's widely known already.
Very well. Juror number 3, you will amend your statement accordingly.
Yes, my lord, although I'm not really sure what the point of all this is. Too hard in a gas pipe and you extinguish everything in the house, and then you're in real trouble. Okay. What is... Yeah, what is this about? you mean it's poisoned? Lewd.
That's right, it happened a few times. Targets a few times. Now,
this is most troubling and... Oh, wrong voice it completely.
This is most troubling indeed. It's always days like this one when I don't get any wages. I get in the tea time, see? And I see her doing it, my wife. She gets that devilish look on her face and she slips some white powder into my cup.
And you drink it anyway?
It was brought up proper, I was. If someone gives you a cuppa, you drink it.
And what happened to you? What did it taste like?
It was god awful, believe you me. Salty as hell.
Oh, so she put salt in it. Then I think perhaps what your wife put in your tea was salt.
No! So, she doesn't even care enough to poison me properly, eh? Unbelievable. Let's move on, please.
Nothing else, Pat. There's no other explanation, is there? Hold it! Well, let's see. Does that mean that if the victim could be shown to have ingested something else, you'd change your leaning? Sorry? What's that now? Oh, I was just saying, if the victim did actually eat or drink something else on the night... What's the matter with you? Sorry? I said, if nothing else passed the victim's lips that night, there's no other explanation, is there? Haven't you been listening to me at all? I feel there's an English expression about a pot and a kettle that's appropriate here. Compared to the other jurors who don't even appear to have anything to say about the case at all, it would seem that this elderly gentleman has been listening to the proceedings far more intently. I suppose the trouble is... He has selective hearing? Exactly, but still, this juror may well be the key to breakthrough that we so desperately need. I think maybe we could pick... Oh, this is hopeless. There's no way for me to appeal to these people. I do think that the only way we shall overcome this difficult situation is by exposing the way in which Mr. Shamspeaaaare was really poisoned. We have to prove that it happened some other way, and not via Mr. Natsume's tea. Yes, I know. The trouble is, I have absolutely no idea how it did happen. Mr. Naruhodo, I wonder if perhaps there's something you might have forgotten. Oh? Like what? It's important to watch everyone involved and pursue people if they react to something someone else says. If you'd like me to remind you exactly what I mean, I'd be more than happy to, of course. Hey, we already did that. Once again, Saseki-san's fate is entirely in my hands here. I probably owe it to the client to hear any advice my assistant may be able to offer. So perhaps I have to let Susato-san remind me. Then again. No need. We already did it. We did it. Actually, I don't think there's any need. It's vital that we start trying to change these jurors' minds as soon as possible. Of course, I'm sure you're right. But if you decide you would like your memory refreshed, you need only ask, Mr. Naruhodo. Alright, so I think we need to pit juror number 3 and juror number 6 against each other. Alright, pit it.
Objection!
I think we did it. Those two statements clearly contradict each other.
Good gracious. To whose statements do you refer, Counsel?
Juror number 6. Did you hear what juror number 3 just said?
Eh? What? Yes, of course. I heard him mumbling about something or other.
There is another explanation here, I believe. Something besides Mr. Natsume's tea did, in a manner of speaking, pass the victim's lips on the night in question.
What? What explanation?
I wonder, did the police check the mouth of the gas pipe feeding the wall light at the scene to see if there were any traces of poison there? I was curious to see what your floundering would result in this time. But the mouth of a gas pipe? Scotland Yard have enough to do without exploring such irrelevance. But a piece of work is a man. What are you trying to say, Mr. Shamspeare? What speakest thou, prithee? Is it not strange and strange? That is what I say to thee, sir. I thought I'd been quite clear, but let me put it another way. The strychnine could have been on the mouth of the gas pipe that feeds the wall lamp in your room. And that is how the poison came to enter your body.
Good lord. Well, they tasty then, gas pipes. Is that what he's saying?
Or is the gentleman suggesting the poor man was so desperately hungry he tried to fill his belly with gas?
Perhaps no actress would perform a kiss scene with him, For shame, madam, speaking thy fancy.
I assure you I'm not such a buffoon that I have to kiss pipes.
Objection!
This is no summation examination, this is a farce. The prosecution will not stand for any more of my learned Nipponese friend's conjecture. To begin with, the lamp in the victim's room is high on the wall. In order to have placed his lips to the pipe that feeds it, he would have to be a contortionist. These are empty assertions. There is no possible proof that the man did as you say.
Objection!
It's true, I have no proof that Mr. Shamspeare put his lips to the pipe. However, I can say with some certainty that on multiple occasions, Mr. Shamspeare has been doing something in front of the lamp on the wall. And I have evidence to prove it. Oh. Okay, no problem. Have a good night.
Alright, you've got our attention, lad. Let me see how you can be sure of yourself.
So would I. Let's see this evidence then. Now that I've got the jury's ear, I need to make this opportunity count. This is the proof that time and time again, Mr. Shamspeare stood in front of his gas lamp.
Take that!
What the? These are... wait. What are these called? Oh yes, skin prints that were found at the scene.
Skin prints? Counsel, I've never heard of such things. The Justice Ministry is currently assessing whether or not to permit fingerprints as evidence in court, however.
My lord, this is an exciting new forensic technique developed by the great detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. It reveals all of the places that Mr. Shamspeare touched in his room.
I've never seen anything like it. I mean, that's black magic, isn't it?
Well, if anyone could invent something like this, it's that great Sholmes fellow. That's for sure.
I agree, this month's edition of Engineering Thumbs was quite fascinating. They found skin prints in many places that you would expect. On the table, on the costumes. However, Mr. Sholmes also appears to have been touching some very unexpected places. Mr. Shamspeare, in his room. For example, here.
On the hanging picture there, indeed, multiple handprints appear to be visible.
Well, I wonder, could he have been appreciating the artwork, perhaps? At first, my colleagues and I thought the same. However, imagine standing with your hands where these prints were, and you would find yourself directly in front of... Ah! I don't believe it! The gas lamp. Though the reason why isn't immediately obvious, it's clear that Mr. Shamspeare has regularly been standing with his hands to the wall in front of that lamp.
Right. What have you been up to, you nut?
I'd ask the court to recall juror number 4's earlier statement.
Me? What did I say?
You said that blowing into a gas pipe would make the lights in the entire building flicker. And now, if you'll recall juror number 3's statement... What? Me now? When the gas worker who visited his home blew with too much force into the pipe, it caused all the lights and the gas stove to go out and gas to start leaking into the rooms. Obviously, that incident was an accident. However, the simple fact is, if Mr. Shamspeaare would have blown hard into the gas pipe here in his room, he could have extinguished every other light and gas stove in the building at will. Crikey!
Are you suggesting that the man purposely caused the gas to...
Objection!
Thus, I acknowledge that the prosecution is required to remain silent during a summation examination. I must toast my learned friends' utter disregard for the letter of the law.
What is the meaning of this, Lord Van Zykes?
This curious photograph, or whatever it is, presented by the defense, the so-called skin prints, clearly that cannot be accepted as any form of usable evidence in this case. But it's an exciting new forensic technique developed by a great detective. Is nothing. A mere toy developed by an amateur sleuth with too much time on his hands.
Certainly, even research of this nature by the esteemed Mr. Sholmes cannot be recognized by the court as formal evidence.
But... Please, my lord, if I may. Mr. Sato, it was not the defense's intention to submit the skin prints as formal evidence. We merely wished to present the results of the great detective's investigation of the scene, as a tool by which to explain the possibility to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. And if the trial were to come to an end now, we should never learn the truth behind these mysterious handprints that everyone has now seen. I don't believe we can allow that to happen, and I'm sure the jurors would agree. You're right. Whether those strange handprints are a significant clue or not, it's down to us to decide. Juror number 3? Oh yes, I do declare, the great detective's investigation results should sound absolutely fascinating. And I want to hear what that shady actor fella has to say about those shady handprints.
What's the matter with you two? That was foolhardy.
Well, I did say it, didn't I? I don't like to break a promise.
No, wait! You've heard his lordship. It's not fair to take him evidence.
You're losing control, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. If just one more juror changes his or her mind, Mr. Natsume's trial will have to continue. Thank you, Mrs. Sato, but I couldn't have done it without you. Oh no, it was you who identified the clue after all. That's very much your success. Why, Mr. Shamspeaare? You seem to be losing your composure. Just one more juror, Mr. Naruhodo. You can do it.
Very well. Continue, counsel.
Alright. I don't believe in breaking promises. We can't come to a decision while so much is up in the air. Let's see. Anything? It did happen, so we'll have to see here. Alright, so we just getting the same tutorial we got last time. Need for the reminder. Let's go. question. So how do we get 2 more people?
Hold it!
Let's see. All the evidence, you say? Let's see. There's no room for doubt. Alright, so he's saying that. Okay, never mind. We read all that. Oh, but the defense just demonstrated another possible explanation for the events on the night in question. What do you make of that?
What? Your so-called skin prints?
It's an exciting new forensic investigation technique developed by the great detective himself. The numerous handprints on the wall are clearly out of the ordinary. And if Mr. Shamspeaaaare had indeed put his mouth through the gas pipe on the night in question, it can't be denied that there's a possibility that's where the poison was.
Well, yes. I won't deny that it's playing on my mind. But as the prosecution rightly says, we should pay no heed to unacceptable forms of evidence. And besides...
Yes?
Even if that fellow has been up to some mischief with the gas pipe dozens of times before, it doesn't mean he got up to the same shenanigans on the night in question, does it?
Oh. If you can't make your case better than that, I'm afraid I can't change my stance. You do make a very valid point, sir. What? That's true. Perhaps I was a little hasty.
No, wait. Look, you've got your chance here, haven't you? So it's time to prove your theory. If you and your Japanese cohorts can, that is.
Just leave our nationality out of this, please. Mr. Naruhodo, if we can't substantiate our position, I'm afraid the jurors that changed their minds before may very well change them back. What can I do? Is there any more proof that I can give here? Can I show that Mr. Shamspeaaaare really did blow down on that gas pipe in the night in question? Great question. It's photographic, it shows... Well, we have the testimony of, let's look. I think we'll say we have supporting testimony. No, in truth, I don't have evidence to support my theory. However, there is witness testimony that substantiates it.
What's that? Testimony?
This is incredible! Whose testimony? Yes, it's all connected. Everything is linked. A person whose testimony revealed details about the gas in the Garadeb residence that night. Namely, is it Mr. Garadeb? Or is it Natsume himself? Or not, yeah. I'm thinking it's Mr. Garadeb. Let's see. Well, Mr. Foreman, does that convince you? Oh, that wasn't right. Whew, I don't think he was listening.
Rest assured, counsel, I shan't let such nonsensical answers go without penalty.
Ugh, I thought I'd got away with it. A witness who spoke about the gas on the night in question. Yes, there was someone. That's what I thought too, but I obviously chose the wrong person. Oh, it was, the gas man. Duh, right? It's gotta be the gas man. Alright, so let's skip all this. Alright. Man, we gotta go through all this just to get to this presentation again. That is a lot. Let's go. Alright. We have supporting testimony. It would be... Mr. Meterman, yeah. Right? Because he was there the whole night. No? Seriously? Man. It's gotta be Natsume then, right? Alright. He's the only person, because the other two just have nonsense they're talking about. As far as, like, Let's see. So it's gotta be Natsume. It's gotta be. That's the only person left.
Hold it!
Because he talked about that. Alright. Just got confused for a bit there. I might be getting ahead of myself. That happens in these games. You get ahead of where the game's at. Alright, so here we go. Supporting, yeah.
Take that!
There we go. Obviously, I'm talking about the defendant. Mr. Saseki Natsume himself.
The defendant.
At the very beginning of the proceedings here in court yesterday, Mr. Natsume said the following. My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings! Even on that fateful night, it happened when I returned from Mr. Shamspeaara's room. I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me! On the night in question, the gas in the defendant's room went out. So I asked the court, was that a mere coincidence or not? Good golly! So that Shamspeare fellow blew air into the gas pipe to make the man's stove go out on purpose?
How old your horse is there? What would he do that for?
Mr. Foreman,
What is it, man?
we can't allow judgment to be passed while this doubt remains. It's true that I don't have any conclusive evidence yet. However, you must surely agree there is more to this case than meets the eye.
Ah! Fair enough. Like I said at the outset, a man of logic, first and foremost.
Yep. That's 4 jurors leaning towards not guilty, my lord. We've overturned the decision. Therefore, the defense calls for the trial to continue.
As the defense has rightfully indicated, the summation examination is concluded with a majority of jurors altering their decisions. 2 jury members now call guilty, 4 now call not guilty. Therefore, the jury's opinion is conflicted, and in accordance with the law of the land, I hereby order the continuation of this trial.
Alright.
Mr. William Shamspeare.
My lord, how can thy humble Shamspeare serve thee?
What say you in response to the various revelations made during the summation examination?
So God mend me, I do solemnly swear, I recall aught of either the lamp or the pipe.
But your handprints have made a tiny mess all over the wall there. How do you explain that, eh?
I am done with this. The dignity of this great courtroom has been sullied enough already. Juror number 5.
Who, me?
As I went to some pains to point out already, a print from the self-professed detective's toy has no place in the British court of law.
Oh!
As such, whether or not this man did indeed stand before the gas lamp with his hands against the wall remains, at this time, unestablished conjecture. You will all do well to remember that.
Objection!
But the prosecution must concede that it would be extremely simple to verify. Just order the mouth of the gas pipe feeding that lamp in Mr. Shamspeare's room to be examined. If there are traces of poison that...
Objection!
What appears to be extremely simple is my Nipponese friend's mind. You will recall that in order to check for the presence of poison in the tea, some remnants of tea were required. Yes. Therefore, it shouldn't be beyond your wit to imagine that even if poison were to have been spread on the pipe, it would have been completely evaporated by now, making any analysis impossible. I didn't think of that.
In any case, Counsel, I fail to see what could possibly have motivated the man to do as you describe. Why on earth would this fellow have wanted to blow air into the pipework where he lived?
There's only one possibility that I can think of, and that is to use leaking gas to commit murder.
Order! Counsel! Precisely whose life do you propose this man was pulling to end?
The answer couldn't be simpler, now we've unraveled the mystery this far. Mr. Shamspeaaaare wanted to end the life of Mr. Natsume.
Take that!
If a gas lamp were to go out, it would be noticed immediately, of course. But a gas stove, on the other hand, could be silently extinguished by the killer without anyone noticing.
I live around these parts myself, so I know what it's like. I can tell you, trying to sleep without the stove lit is pretty much suicide. You'd freeze to death in no time.
Mr. Garadeb, the landlord, has a large fireplace in his part of the residence on the top floor. In other words, it wasn't the landlord, but a fellow lodger whose life Mr. Shamspeaare was trying to end.
Outrageous!
I'm talking, of course, about the defendant. Mr. Natsume isn't the villain in this case. He's the victim this man was trying to murder.
Good gracious!
Objection!
The accused is actually the aggrieved? Interesting. However, the fundamental facts of the case remain unchanged. Namely,
The accused is the aggressor here.
what? How can you still claim that? Let us indulge your fancies for a moment and assume that there was indeed poison in the mouth of the gas pipe. The question that then arises is who put it there? Who did put it there? The only logical conclusion is that the person responsible was aware of this man's trickery with the gas supply and his intent to kill.
Yes, that would indeed seem logical. If the assailant were unaware, how would he or she have known to lace the end of the gas pipe with poison?
So now we must ask, how could anyone have known of Mr. Shamspeare's murderous designs? You mean to suggest... Naturally, the sole possible answer to that question could be more obvious. Only the man whose life was being threatened could possibly have known. What? In other words, the person who put the poison on the gas pipe in what was a clear retaliatory attack can only have been the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Whatever Mr. William Shamspeaare may or may not have contrived to do, he was nevertheless the victim of a potentially lethal poison attack. And the only person who could possibly have perpetrated that attack is the accused, Mr. Natsume. The defense counsel's theorizing has failed to avert suspicion from the accused. Oh, far from it. In fact, now that a clear motive for the poisoning has been successfully established, that suspicion is greater than ever. Would you not agree, my Nipponese friend? Ouch. Walked right into that one. How did he manage to turn that around on me so rapidly? Mr. Naruhodo, you must respond. Otherwise, the members of the jury may very well change their leanings against us again. And this may be our last chance to gain the advantage. What advantage? Well, it would seem that somebody put poison on the gas pipe in Mr. Shamspeare's room. So we must now name that person and absolve Mr. Natsume of guilt. You mean, name the true culprit? I know it might sound impossible, but if we fail to do that, I have no doubt that Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed once and for all. And as it happens, one possible culprit does come to mind. The evidence, the poison, it's all pointing to a particular person now. The prosecution calls for the jury to consider their leanings again. I trust you'll make the correct choice this time, Mr. Foreman.
What? Oh, don't you worry. We know exactly what...
There is one other person who I believe could have been involved in all of this. The true culprit of this crime.
The true culprit?
A term found only in second-rate novels featuring third-rate great detectives. My Nipponese friend. But why not? This farce has gone on for so long already, I see no reason to cut it short before its disappointing climax. Thank you. Tell us, my learned Nipponese friends, what is your latest theory? Who is the so-called true culprit of this crime? Well, let's see here. So, Duncan Ross was murdered, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. He was killed by gas, right? Mr. Meterman's fine. It's gotta be Olive Green, right? Because she had the poison.
Take that!
Yeah. The name of the person responsible for the poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeaaaare is, I believe, Miss Olive Green.
Miss Olive Green? Miss Olive Green. I do feel as though I've heard that name in the recent past, Counsel, but I don't recall where.
Miss Olive Green? The woman from 6 days ago? The victim in the recent case of stabbing on Briar Road. An incident for which Mr. Natsume was arrested, I hasten to add.
Oh, of course, yes, Miss Green. She was left comatose for some 3 days, I believe, but I hear she regained consciousness 2 days ago.
And I hardly need to remind the court that Mr. Shamspeaara's poisoning took place 3 days ago. Given that the woman was lying comatose in a hospital bed at the time, she appears to have a rather fine alibi. True, on the night that the incident occurred, Miss Green was in hospital, unconscious. So on the face of it, it would seem that she couldn't possibly be responsible, but still. My colleagues and I visited Miss Green in hospital yesterday. And we found her to be in possession of a bottle of poison.
Good gracious, she had poison?
And there is another fact that links Miss Green to this case as well. The defense requests that she be brought to the witness stand in order to explain the details to the court.
Tell me, Mr. Shamspeaare.
My lord, pray, what be thy bidding?
Are you acquainted with Miss Green?
No, never heard of her. Judging by the look on Mr. Shamspeare's face, I think perhaps he genuinely doesn't know her, at least not by name. As the voice of Her Majesty's prosecution here, I adhere to my words. We will see my learned Nipponese friend's farce through to its conclusion. I appreciate that. The prosecution requests a short recess, my lord, in order to subpoena the witness and bring her here.
Yes, Miss Olive Green.
Indeed. My lord, 1 hour should be sufficient.
Very well, I grant the request.
Excellent. I hope.
The defense has made the most extraordinary accusation, I must say, but at the present time I feel the prosecution's argument remains largely uncontested. Accordingly, I'm afraid the defendant and his culpability remain the sole subject of this court's attention. Thank you, counsel. We reconvene in 1 hour. Court is adjourned.
To be continued. Alright. Save our current progress. February, 11:32 a.m., the Old Bailey. Commence Andy Chamber. Joyful, jubilant, jumping jacks! Oh, Mr. Natsume, I'm so pleased for you. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, and non-locum judicial assistant Miss Mikitoba Esquires. Now, finally, at long last there can be proof. Proof that I'm innocent and proof that my tea is innocent.
Good morning, my dear fellows. Herlock Sholmes. May you drink my tepid tea and fall forever silent.
I thought the tea was innocent. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you came. How wonderful.
Please, save your derision. I know what you're all thinking. Good morning, he says, when it's near time for lunch. Your scorn is written clearly across your faces.
Nobody said or thought anything of the sort.
The truth is, I was determined that today would be the day. As sleep seduced me last night, I thought. Tomorrow, for once, I shall not oversleep. I'll rise early and be present in court to support my companions. Such spirited determination is a beauty all of its own, does it not?
Oh, yes.
And then I began to muse on the subject. Why do people oversleep? I queried. Why, time after time, do they make the same foolish blunder? And the answer came to me at once, so delightfully simple. People oversleep because they sleep. Well, is that not an astute insight into the matter?
Oh, yes.
Upon which realization, I attempted an experiment. I didn't sleep a wink all night. And the results? By first light, I was exhausted and began to be assailed by fits of drowsiness. Shocking. And so, the conclusion of last night's experiment is this. A good night's sleep is quite simply essential.
Yes, I think most of us probably knew that already.
What others presuppose I prove by experimentation. That, my dear fellow, is the scientific method. Ah yes, and then one more thing. Do you remember this?
Ah.
Yes, of course, it's the poison that Miss Green was about to drink at the hospital yesterday.
Oh, you didn't manage to...
It was a laborious task as the bottle was near empty, but such inconveniences do not hinder Sholmes. I managed to confirm that it contained strychnine.
So I was right.
Perhaps, though of course, such circumstantial evidence doesn't prove Miss Green's guilt. I shall leave the bottle in your care now, but licking the inside of the neck is not recommended. Ah, bottle of poison. A bottle found in the possession of Miss Green with traces of slow-acting poison strychnine inside.
Could I have a word? Who said that?
Oh! Gregson! How good of you to come! Forget it. Excuse me. Wait a minute, Inspector. He comes back with fist chip. Don't wish to make a nuisance of myself.
Look on your face, I'd say it's someone else you think is making a nuisance of himself.
My dear Inspector, please, speak freely. Pretend that I'm not here. Believe me, if I could do that, life would be a whole lot simpler for me.
Do you have the result, Inspector, of the investigation in Mr. Shamspeaara's room?
Not yet. Shouldn't be long now, though. Now, I'm here about something else. That dead convict, actually.
Oh, you mean the man from this newspaper article we discovered yesterday in Mr. Shamspeaara's room? A man by the name of... yes, Selden.
I went through the archives at the yard and dug out the fellow's file. There's something in there that, caught my eye.
Something caught your eye? What? Wait, Inspector. What?
Well, I've copied out the relevant parts for you, so you can read it for yourselves.
Thank you. The capital offender's file has been added to the court record. Scotland Yard's file about the convicted criminal Selden that includes the newspaper article about him dying of illness in prison. These documents include the details that were in the newspaper cutting we found in Mr. Shamspeaara's room. I'll rearrange everything in the court record so we don't have duplicate information. Why are you giving us a copy of this important file, though?
Well, you're the ones who turned up the clue in the first place, aren't you? Just making sure things get handled in the proper fashion.
Oh, Scotland Yard's workings are so wonderful.
Indeed, my dear fellows, and the inspector here has a shining diamond in its crown.
A shining diamond in the rough, maybe.
Look, I just don't want to be beholden to a lawyer, that's all. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court proceedings are about to resume. Make your way into the courtroom at once.
Well, I shall leave you then. I'll be listening with interest from the public gallery.
Not nodding off at all.
Certainly not. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. I'm rather tired of seeing Mr. Mustache in floods of tears, personally, so the best of luck to you.
Welcome, student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire.
Yes, Mr. Natsume. It's time, isn't it? Yes, this is it. Miss Olive Green, and Mr. William Shamspeaare. This is going to be the final battle. I won't really have saved Saseki-san until I've exposed the whole truth of everything that's been going on. But it's all coming to a head now. You can do it, Rinosuke. You have to.
Here we go.
23rd February, 12:30 p.m. The Old Bailey, courtroom.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again now. Before their recess, we heard a most startling accusation from the defense, namely that the victim of the case we heard here only a few days ago is the true perpetrator of this incident.
A reckless, rash, and prejudiced charge of wrongdoing, in my opinion, my lord. However, the prosecution has tried to extend every courtesy to this amateur newcomer from dubious eastern shores. Thank you for that backhanded consideration.
A rather cold assessment from the honorable British prosecutor, I must say. So, Lord Van Zykes is the new witness, present and ready to take the stand.
Ready and waiting in the witnesses' antechamber, my lord.
Very well. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in.
Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court, please. William Shamspeaare, my liege. For mine occupation, I can say only that I be a tragic victim, to be pitied. Currently unemployed, in other words. I'm Olive Green. I'm a fledgling artist. Well, no, not a fledgling, really. A hopeless failure who's too weak-spirited to admit she has no talent, I suppose. Also currently unemployed, in other words. What a coterie.
Mr. Shamspeaare,
My lord, I am thy
humble servant. I'm afraid that you are no longer merely the victim in this affair. The possibility has been raised that you are in fact the assailant, intent on taking the life of your fellow lodger. The part you have played in this whole business will be thoroughly scrutinized, I assure you.
I would for naught else, my lord.
And Miss Green?
Yes?
You are aware of the reason you have been summoned to this courtroom today, I presume?
Yes, the officer did explain. He said I poisoned this ridiculous buffoon. And, do you accept the charge, Miss Green? I don't know anything about any poisoning. And I don't know anything about this man. Come, lady. Die to live. Verily, I know not thy prickly pea-pigmented personage.
Very well, let us proceed with the matter at hand. That being to ascertain whether or not Miss Green has any involvement in this affair.
It's all very strange. Very strange indeed. Why would you suspect me? I barely ever go to the East End anyway. So it happens that I passed by that neighborhood 6 days ago, that's all. And on the night that this man was poisoned, I was still in hospital fighting for my life. Yes, having been unfortunately caught up in the incident on the street outside the Gerdep household. An incident that rendered you unconscious for some 3 days. I was struck in the middle of my back by a knife, through no fault of my own, and now I'm under suspicion? What other irrelevant things might I have to be suspected of? It's all very disturbing.
Your energies may be better spent worrying about random knife attacks, I feel, Miss Green.
At this point in time, all that appears to connect you with Mr. Shamspeare's lodging is the Briar Road incident of 6 days ago. That's why we would like you to testify formally now about exactly what happened. Oh no! The incident 6 days ago! You mean you want me to relive that awful accident? Unfortunately, yes. Please tell the court what happened that day. And of course, we will be interested to hear from you about your movements that day too, Mr. Shamspeaare. But what happened 6 days ago has nothing to do with me being poisoned.
Let us proceed then. The witness will present their formal testimony to the court on the subject of the incident that took place on Briar Road the evening of the 17th of February.
The evening of the 17th of February. It was 6 days ago at about 5 p.m. I was walking along in the snow when I was suddenly stabbed in the back. Coincidentally, it happened to be just outside the house where the men in the case have their lodgings. I was at the tavern on the eve of which thou speakest, for I had bespoke my supper. It was the first time I'd been in the area. I had a little matter to attend to, that's all. Anyway, I was admitted straight to hospital, so I knew nothing about all this business.
Well, I think there's an easy contradiction there with her saying that she'd never been there before because her fiancé or whatever lived there.
Yes, the second incident inside a week at what I believe to be aptly described as the haunted lodgings. One can only presume that this is a most unfortunate coincidence. Meanwhile,
you say you were not in your room, Mr. Shamspeaaaare. 'Twas the following morn when I did awaken that I learned of the dire events.
Mary, what a commotion did the officers of the law make on the floor above mine?
When Tsuseki-san was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder.
As suspected, there is nothing connecting these two witnesses but happenstance.
It's true, it does seem as though they're unrelated at first glance, but I'm not so sure.
There's something lurking in the shadows here.
I feel certain of it, and this is my one and only chance to expose it.
counsel, you may now cross-examine these two witnesses if you wish.
Yes, my lord. I'm well acquainted with the case. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
It was awful. I still can't believe I was unconscious for so long. And I woke up to find that the case had been solved and the culprit arrested.
Yes, the incident has been resolved already. Perhaps it would help you to consider it the bad dream that ended with your awakening and should now be forgotten.
Yes, I suppose so. Thank you.
But before you put it completely behind you, Miss Green, I need you to remember the details one last time. You must tell the court exactly what happened that day for us to arrive at the truth about this new case.
The trouble is, there's nothing to tell, really. I was just walking along the pavement. I happened to be just outside the house with the men in this case at their lodge.
Hold it!
Okay.
What were you doing there that day, though? What do you mean?
The art school you attend, what's it called?
Yes, it's the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts. According to Mr. Sholmes, that's just in the vicinity of Brixton Road, which is some 10 steps away from the scene of the underground.
I believe you mentioned before that you also live on Brixton Road, isn't that right?
So why, then, would you have been walking along Briar Road in the middle of the East End? Well, it's because, oh yes, of course. I thought it might make a nice picture.
The witness is a student of art. City-dwelling artists can't all paint grand urban vistas.
That's right. I happen to like the crumbling look of that part of town.
Perhaps quaint would have been a less grating term. The point is, she's definitely hiding something.
Yes, it seems she's not going to be forthcoming with the truth. If she's trying to hide why she was there that evening, it must mean that there's a reason for her not wanting us to know. That's the key to this.
And you, Mr. Shamspeaaaare, on the evening of the incident 6 days ago, would you tell the court what exactly you were doing?
'Twould be my pleasure, sire.
Alright. He was at the tavern and was eating supper. Alright, well, let's go back and let's press him on that.
Hold it!
A tavern, you say? Which one?
'Twas the Slug and Salad where I did tarry, to the Jewel in the East End.
And a little unexpected, I feel.
What do you mean, Lord Van Zykes?
The Slug and Salad offers unusually fine dining. For the locality, at least. Not an establishment you'd expect to be patronized by a man with not even a crumb of bread in his room.
It's true, the menu lists premium crusts of bread and glasses of water, and different levels of cloudiness. I would have expected Grubb's Grubbery in the local vicinity to be more appropriate for your means. Watery soup and mushy peas, or rather soupy water and pea like mush. All equally appetizing. I just wanted to try some water in a... No, wrong voice. I just wanted to try some water in a different pub for once. What's wrong with that? How different can water really be? Or perhaps there's more plausible explanation? A specific reason why he had to go to that particular establishment? Agreed. The fact that on that day of all days he dined at a place he wouldn't normally does stand out. So Mr. Shamspeare's own actions on the day of the incident 6 days ago were slightly suspicious. I wonder if we have some evidence that can explain those actions. Let's see. Did we get rid of anything from last time? We don't know where this is. Let's see. Let's look at the bottle of poison. Is there anything of interest? There's something on the bottom. I can look at that. So this is the poison we've been hearing so much about. Strychnine. There are a few remnants on the bottom of the bottle here. Look. You mustn't be tempted to try it. Of course not, as long as we don't lose this trial. No! Even if we lose the trial. No, we mustn't lose the trial in the first place, Mr. Naruhodo. Make your mind up, Susato-san. Alright, so there's really nothing to look at as far as I can tell. But let's look at the capital offenders file. So, 18 counts of burglary, 6 counts of suspected murder. Died of natural causes whilst in prison, his final moments witnessed only by his cellmate. The estimated 1,000 pounds worth of loot he stole remains unrecovered. Condemned criminal dies of natural causes in prison. Manchester's Strange Ways Prison announced the death of convicted murderer and burglar Selden by natural causes in the early hours this morning. He had been suffering with fever since the end of October. Alerted by the shouts of his fellow cellmate, medical staff arrived to find him already dead before his capital punishment could be carried out. Alright. What do we have to explain that he might... Do we have any evidence that might explain it? I don't think we have anything right now. So, let's see. Not at the moment. I wish we did, but sadly I can't think of anything at the moment. If we find a clue that could explain why Mr. Shamspeare went there, we must present it to the court. Yes, absolutely.
If that is all on this matter, counsel, I would ask Miss Green to reiterate her next statement.
That was the first...
Hold it!
Little matter, Miss Green. Please elaborate. It was nothing really. It was just not worth mentioning. If you remember, you mentioned it to us yesterday at the hospital. Ah, it was related to the card you were holding. Miss Green. What was that? She clearly just hid something behind her back. Yeah. From memory, I believe the card contained a note that read, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. What does that matter? This has nothing to do with Duncan. Oh, he actually recognized that.
Excuse me!
Mr. Shamspeare, do you have something to share with the court? Oh-ho. To be or not to be? That is the question. Ah, pray forgive me. The great bard's word springeth from me in me with ne'er thought. Don't tell me it's because you're possessed by Shakespeare's spirit, right? Hearing Miss Green's words a moment ago seemed to make you think of something. Something of relevance, perhaps. Well, nay, sir. Nay, sire, 'twas nothing at all. Presumably you know the name, though? Mr. Duncan Ross, I mean? After all, you were both lodgers in the same house. Would it was so, but sadly nay. Lodging be a lonely occupation, sire. My lodging fellows be rarely known to me.
So you haven't heard of him, even though he passed away in the room just one floor above yours?
Miss Green?
Me, my lord? Have I done something wrong?
The card that was mentioned before, containing the note. Do you have it upon your person?
I do, yes, but I don't need it anymore. In fact, I should throw it away, really.
Before you dispose of it, the court will take it as evidence, please.
Miss Green's card has been entered into the court record. Yay, I want to look at that because of the tear.
Of course, that's what links Mr. Shamspeaaaare and Miss Green. It's Duncan Ross.
Now, continue with your testimony, please, Miss Green.
Alright, we got some looking. Alright, let's look at that tear.
The envelope has been ripped open rather carelessly, hasn't it?
Miss Green strikes me as the type to open correspondence more neatly than that.
Ah, what is it?
The way the envelope is torn, I'm almost sure I've seen that exact same shape somewhere else.
Oh, you don't mean... Are you thinking of this piece of evidence, Mr. Naruhodo?
Exactly, that's it. Try to match them up.
They go together perfectly. This torn off end of the envelope clearly belongs with this card.
Aha. We got it. Alright, we did what we needed to do with that.
Hold it!
Let's see what she's got to say.
Yes, you didn't regain consciousness until the day after the trial, did you? In the early hours?
Exactly. So how could I have had anything to do with it? And yet, still you haul me in here to court like this. Honestly.
So at the time of the poisoning, the witness was unconscious in her hospital bed. Could there be a more airtight alibi, I ask you?
And yet, in spite of that, you claim that I was the culprit? Well, but you certainly haven't produced any evidence to support your wild claim, have you? None at all.
There you have it. The good lady has yet to see evidence. My learned Japanese friend.
I'm working on it.
Counsel, I will point out here that the jury's next decision will be final.
We're really up against the wall here. Mr. Naruhodo, you pursued Mr. Shamspeaaaare wonderfully there.
It's worked out well, hasn't it? We have a new clue at last. Alright, now I need to pull off a really insightful objection somewhere.
Well, as you've managed to expose this promising new angle, I wonder if you should perhaps try to develop that.
Ah, yes, of course. Yelling out objections isn't necessarily the best way to do that, I suppose. I will be right back. am back. I just had to run a quick thing upstairs, but I am back. Okay. Hello, welcome. Alright. So, I'm thinking I need... Let's see. Let's see, do we need to press him to get some evidence presented? Yeah, probably the card.
Hold it!
So I'm gonna press him and I'll go through the dialogue again. Mr. Shamspeaaaare.
Yes, sire?
On the day in question, is it not the case that you visited the Slug and Salad, a place you don't normally patronize, for a very particular reason?
I don't know what you're talking about. Pray, if thou hast some purpose, speakest.
Very well. I will present the court with evidence. Evidence that explains why you had to be at the Slug and Salad that day, namely...
Take that!
card. I believe this card reveals the answer.
Good lord, Miss Green's card, you mean?
That's right, my lord. It reads, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. Mr. Shamspeaaaare, your actions on the afternoon of Miss Green's stabbing are exactly as described in this note. Personally, I find it hard to believe that's a coincidence. Don't you, Mr. Shamspeaaaare?
Well... Excuse me. Can I say something?
Yes, Miss Green?
That card was delivered to me. It doesn't have anything to do with this odd man, does it?
Well, you'd think so, yes, but it's hard to believe it's merely...
My lord, may I?
May you what, Miss Green?
I'd like to make something very clear about that card.
Very well then. You may amend your testimony to include details about the particular note. A peculiar note.
This note was delivered to me at my address. It has nothing to do with the odd man here.
Alright, let's... Alright. Yeah, we already got this dialogue. Yep, we'll go through that. I guess I'll press her on it.
Hold it!
I think you said that you received it the day before the incident, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
There appears to be no indication of the sender's name or address on the envelope.
It was in my letterbox, and that's all I know, I'm afraid. I've no idea who sent it.
I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Who is this Duncan Ross, please?
A friend of mine. He attended the same art school as I do. He passed away in a tragic accident a month ago now, though. I wasn't sure what to make of that note, to be honest, but in the end I decided to go.
So you found out what the information was?
Of course I didn't. You're not thinking straight.
Whilst on her way there, she was stabbed in the back. As my learned friend hopefully remembers.
Oh, yes, of course. She never made it to the meeting.
Alright. But her claim that it has nothing to do with him is a lie because we have the other end of the envelope that was found in his room. Which we will present now.
Objection!
The day before the incident, exactly 1 week ago now, this note was delivered to your address, and upon carrying out the instructions in the note, you found yourself in hospital.
Yes, I did. It's terrible, everything that's happened to me.
Yes, it is terrible. If it's all true, that is.
What do you mean?
Miss Green, have a look at this, please. It's the torn-off end of an envelope. Oh, is it? And it so happens that it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the note you received. Where did you find that? In Mr. Shamspeaaare's room. In my room? Mr. Shamspeare, do you perhaps remember this note from somewhere? Well, your actions that afternoon follow the instructions in the note to the letter. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th, and so that's exactly where you went. Let me ask you again, Mr. Shamspeare. You already knew about this note, didn't you? And you, Miss Green. What did I do? As this torn-off end of the envelope proves, the note was originally in Mr. Shamspeare's room. So how is it that it came to be in your possession? I don't have the first idea. I'm just a fledgling artist after all. There is only one explanation. You broke into Mr. Shamspeare's room and stole it. You did what? Sorry, thou hast... What? You broke... thou were in my room? What on earth do you want with me?
It would seem that both witnesses need to testify again.
Miss Green? Yes? Most you have the court's sympathy, I'm sure, for the suffering you've endured in recent events. Anyone found to be giving false testimony in the court of law will be duly punished. Please bear that in mind. Yes, I know.
Very well then, witnesses. You will give formal testimony again now. On the subject of this curious anomaly regarding the note Miss Green claims to have received.
The anomaly of the note. I do remember now. It was a week ago, peradventure. The note was delivered unto me on the day which therein I did tarry an long hour at the Slug and Cellar, yet nobody came. Thereafter, on the evening, I shared the company of the Japanese fellow. I did see the note had vanished. I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into this man's room, do you? Why would I? I can point out the villain here, and as for that torn-off piece of the envelope, I don't know anything about it.
You claim you have received this letter, do you, Mr. Shamspeare?
Faith, 'tis so, my lord, and I would swear to have set it upon thy table in my humble lodgings. Yet 'tis clear to me now that since I returned from that tavern that night, I have not laid eyes upon it.
Well, that being the case, young lady, it would appear that your testimony was...
A lie? Is that what you think? How unfair of you to think I'm the one lying.
I beg your pardon?
I'm just a fledgling artist, as I said, and fledgling artists don't lie. That note was delivered to me at my address. Besides, we all know who the liar around here is. If that's true, Miss Green, how do you explain the facts? This part of the envelope was, without question, found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. I don't see why I should explain. Sorry? I'm a fledgling artist. My job here is to just say what happened, that's all. It's your job to give the explanations and the proofs. You, the fledgling lawyer. And the fledgling will do his best. Evidently, my learned friend's cross-examination is our only hope of learning the truth.
Well, counsel?
I'm ready, my lord.
Very well, then. The defense will now proceed with the cross-examination of the witnesses.
Miss Green clearly did break into Mr. Shamspeare's room. There can be no question of that. And that's how she acquired the note. Yes, two facts that are starting to lead me to a possible explanation of all of this. And it's not a pretty one. Alright.
Hold it!
And can you shed any light on the contents of the note at all? Nay, sire, 'tis as strange to me as a foreign tongue. Even with a knowledge of literature as great as mine. Oh, verily, 'tis impenetrable. Mr. Duncan Ross had lodgings in the same household as you. And in fact, he was your neighbor, so surely you knew him, didn't you? Alack, if the choice is betwixt I knew him and I knew him not, then 'tis with foreboding that I be forced to declare we were by some small measure acquainted. Despite your claims, though, you followed the note's instructions and went to the Slug and Salad. Presumably, that was nothing to do with your knowledge of literature? Marry, naught will have the better of me, sire, save for the lure of curiosity. So it is true, I was compelled by mine own eager heart to pray take myself to the tavern, yet in the end, my curiosity was not satiated. Alright.
Hold it!
So he said nobody came. So even after waiting for an hour, nobody appeared? Well, yes, sire, it is as thou sayest. Really? You paused for a moment before you answered. In truth, when thou asked whether nobody appeared, I did suddenly recall.
Really? Do you mean to tell the court that somebody did appear after all?
I was not alone that night at Slug and Salad, my lord. No, 'tis returning to me now. I did treat my lips to almost clear water, and mine innards to a premium crust of bread. And all around me danced a great many companions. What do you mean? Flies, sir. Flies.
Good lord!
In the name of Beelzebub, what were they? Fairies, perchance, from a Midsummer Night's Dream. Come to taunt me. I think they were just flies. I can't help thinking that the flies ought to choose something more wholesome to buzz around. Is that wrong of me? After I shared the company of the Japanese fellow...
Hold it!
When exactly did you notice it had gone missing? Such idle thoughts ne'er occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas. In other words, you didn't notice. Several days passed between your outing to the tavern and Mr. Natsume's visit to your room.
Yes, it would appear that the note disappeared sometime in that interval.
Such idle thoughts now occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas.
And yet during that time, Miss Green was comatose in hospital, was she not? Clearly then, she would not have been stealing things from Mr. Shamspeaara's room.
Yes. Yes, of course. It's all some sort of misunderstanding, isn't it, Mr. Prosecutor, sir? You have, so far, failed to give a satisfactory explanation as to how you came by the note. I am not here to advocate for your defense, madam. I won't tolerate inconsistencies in your story. You would do well to remember that. Dearie me. That's what Van Zag's getting at. I mean, you think I snuck into this man's room?
Hold it!
Let's see. It seems that this note was actually delivered to Mr. Shamspeare about 1 week ago. Oh, does it? But for some reason, it ended up in your possession. I can't think of any way that could have happened except for you breaking into Mr. Shamspeare's lodging.
Objection!
But for what reason would the witness have done that? I won't deny that Miss Green's possession of the note would appear to defy logic. However, until and unless her involvement in this case will be proven in some other way, any further pursuit of this note is meaningless. Miss Green could have only come into possession of the note by stealing it from Mr. Shamspeare's room. And yet, there's no obvious reason why she would have done such a thing. What if there was some other reason she broke into his lodgings, though? Yes, we should pursue that idea, Mr. Naruhodo. We're close now, I can feel it. We're so close to a breakthrough. Alright. The villain here, and as for that torn-off piece of I don't know anything about it. Alright.
Hold it!
So you don't want to tell the court the truth about the letter, is that it?
fledgling artist, remember? Artists are always nearly introverted characters.
Introverted? Fie! This fledgling doth readily cast aspersions about my nature. Yet I am an angel, a seraph, birds do harmonize with my song, the wind doth frolic on my wing. Oh, pity, where dost thou accuse one so pure of heart, ample woman?
Pure of heart? I don't think so. Even a fledgling like me can see you're just a failure.
Tragedy, thou shalt not know the true heart of an artist until thine instruction, hereafter, by death. Oh, the days, oh, the years, alas, to enlighten thee, thou must wait so long and in vain.
Mr. Naruhodo, interject with some clever remark. This is your chance to shine.
I am no Shakespearean actor, Mrs. Sato. No, as far as I can tell, the only thing that's going to resolve this argument
is evidence. Yes. It's clear that Miss Green did in fact break into Mr. Shamspeare's room, isn't it? And that's where she found this letter?
Yes, two more or less foregone conclusions led me to one terrifying conclusion.
Terrifying?
Yes, I'm afraid to say that the outcome of this cross-examination may well change how we look at this case completely. Alright. I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into this room, do you? Why would I?
Hold it!
Wait, I hit the wrong thing. I wanted to present some evidence.
Objection!
So here's what I'm thinking. She wants to know why she would, but we have the poison that links up, and it's strychnine. So, yeah, I think we can get her with that.
Objection!
Yeah. Yesterday at the hospital, we saw you with this bottle, and though the contents spilt during the course of our meeting, a small quantity remained.
Ah!
According to the defense's independent analysis, Mr. Sholmes' chemistry set, the liquid that was still in the bottle was identified as strychnine.
What? Strychnine? The very same poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeaaaare. Ah!
Miss Green, you broke into this man's lodgings, for one reason and one reason alone. To cover the end of the pipe that feeds the gas lamp in Mr. Shamspeare's room with poison.
Can this be... You broke into my room?
It may seem incredible to the court, but from the remaining clues, there is only one logical conclusion that we can reach. The person who attempted to take Mr. Shamspeare's life with poison was you, Miss Olive Green.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Me!
Order! Order! Counsel, are you seriously suggesting that this woman put poison on the end of the gas pipe with intent to kill?
Yes, my lord. There's no other way to explain the facts.
But if Miss Green did indeed set this odious trap 6 days ago, and the victim had put his mouth to the pipe that very evening as expected, the attempted murder would have happened 6 days ago, surely.
Well, that's a very good point. Perhaps not, my lord.
I beg your pardon?
There was a significant police presence in the area that evening on account of the incident on Briar Road. The local residents are being interviewed throughout the night as part of the ongoing inquiry. A circumspect criminal would likely have chosen not to carry out any wrongdoing at that time. But Van Zykes... And of course, the following morning, there was more activity at Mr. Shamspeare's address. More activity? Ah, yes. You mean his fellow lodger, Mr. Knotsmaid, being arrested on suspicion of murder. That's right. And as the defense has already proposed, Mr. Shamspeare was meddling with the gas in the pipe for a very sinister reason himself, to cause the gas stove in Mr. Knotsmaid's room to go out, thereby asphyxiating the occupant. But once Mr. Knotsmaid had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. In the circumstances, Mr. Shamspeare had no reason to blow air into the gas pipe. His intended victim being in a prison cell. With the need to tamper with the gas removed, the poison on the pipe lay dormant. And then 3 days ago now, the situation changed again. Right. Mr. Natsume's trial, which took place here at the Old Bailey, came to an end.
The trial in which the man stood accused of stabbing Miss Green in the back, but was duly acquitted.
That resulted in Mr. Natsume returning to his lodging for the first time in 2 days. And that very night, his gas stove mysteriously went out, and Mr. Shamspeaaaare was mysteriously poisoned. In conclusion, the poison that was present on the mouth of the gas pipe had been put there in the victim's room some 4 days earlier.
Mary!
With that new understanding, it becomes clear that this letter was all part of the plan.
What plan?
The court will recall that the note gave instructions to visit the Slug and Salad at 5 o'clock, and that the recipient should tell nobody else. The reason for those instructions are now clear.
To ensure that the lodger would not be at home at the stated time.
To make sure I wasn't home? Exactly. While you were out, Miss Green could safely slip into your room, knowing that she wouldn't be disturbed.
You mean to say that letter
was written by Miss Green, yes, and in order to convey her tracks, she took it away with her when she left. Just after she smeared poison over the mouth of the gas pipe in your room.
Order! Order! What did you say for yourself, witness? Just who are you? Why did you try to kill me?
Miss Green's motive should be obvious. It's all tied up with someone whose name we've heard several times already during the course of this trial. So, that's what's behind all this.
You will share your apparent understanding with the court, please, counsel. Which person is behind this woman's motive for the attack on the victim's life?
It's Duncan Ross.
Take that!
Duncan Ross?
That's right. Before the defendant, Mr. Natsume, took up residence in the lodgings at Mr. Garadev's, somebody else was renting the room. Mr. Duncan Ross.
I knew I'd heard the name somewhere else. It was all over the papers a month ago, when the man died in certain circumstances at the haunted lodgings. That does ring a vague... of course, yes, I remember now. The young man they claimed was strangled by the convict's curse or some such.
Sadly, my lord, it wasn't a curse of any kind, nor was it an accident. The man died as a result of Mr. Shamspeaaaare blowing into the gas pipe and causing gas to leak into the room. It was murder, plain and simple.
Ah!
Well, what do you know? The world is so unfair. Curses. Curious deaths, that's all people care about. If it's an interesting story they want to know, it doesn't cross their minds. Real people are involved. And once they're bored, just 1 month later, once the story's lost its appeal, everyone's forgotten him.
You mean you...
Duncan was... Mr. Ross was Miss Green's fiancé.
Fiancé?
You may not have known until now who Mr. Green really is, Mr. Shamspeaare, who Miss Green really is. But she's known exactly who you are all along, because you're her sworn enemy, the murderer who took the life of the man she was to marry.
Mary?
Miss Green, is it not the case that in order to exact revenge on Mr. Shamspeaare, you smeared poison over the end of the gas pipe?
This is all quite extraordinary. Am I correct in my understanding that you now accuse both parties, counsel? Each on different counts of murder?
Yes, my lord. That's correct.
Objection!
Inhaling so deeply, it appears that my fledgling learned friend has taken in a lungful of dubious gas that's causing his judgment to be clouded. What? Why would Mr. Shamspeaare have wanted to kill these lodgers, as you say? You have completely failed to provide a motive to substantiate your accusation against the man.
Yes, that's right, Mr. Reaper. My liege. I have been slighted. 'Tis lies, all lies. I deny every utterance.
You have to forgive me, Mr. Naruhodo, sir. But I don't intend to admit anything either. Miss Green,
Sure, you'll think I'm being very rude, but I'm not going to be sent to the gallows for the likes of this scoundrel.
Objection!
But you broke into the man's room. If you didn't do it to smear poison on the pipe, what else was your reason? I thought I'd have a look around, that's all. Sorry? You're right, I suspected him. So I thought perhaps I might find some evidence or something in his room. Evidence that it was him who took Duncan's life.
Oh vileness, oh villainy, oh tyranny, oh rotundity of woman! But in any case, when I leave my room, I do turn the key in the lock.
That whole place is falling apart. The locks on the doors are no different. Duncan showed me once how to unlock the door with some turps and a piece of wire.
Oh awfulness, oh awfulness, oh tyranny, oh profanity of woman! You will consider your trespassing on some future occasion, but for now, tell the court what you found, what evidence your search reveals.
I spotted the note that I'd sent him lying on the floor. When I went to pick it up, I noticed something. One of the floorboards was loose, and underneath it, I discovered a secret hiding place.
Eh?
Yes, we also discovered that hiding place. Inside, we found a newspaper cutting, a photograph, and an empty tin box. Ah, yes. Well, the thing is, when I found it, the box wasn't empty.
What? There was something in it?
Yes. This rather nice key.
Ah! What are you doing with that?
What the? Every ounce of color is drained from his face.
Give it here. Give it to me now. It's mine. I inherited it.
What was that, witnesses? What did you say?
You inherited it?
No, What's all this about? He inherited that key? It was obviously important to you since you'd gone to such lengths to hide it, so I took it. I don't know what it's for, but you took something precious from me, so I took something precious from you. So what if it means you can't open something now? I don't care.
Give it back this minute. Give it to me. Call yourself witness.
So Mr. Shamspeaaaare has tried, and in one case succeeded, to take the life of 2 lodgers now. Yes, his motive for doing so is the key to everything that's happened.
Oh, I keep on. It's true that there appears to be no motive to support the accusation against Mr. Shamspeaaaare at first, but considering everything we know, I think there is actually something that could explain it. What?
I need to recall every piece of evidence at our disposal. Everything we've seen and heard. Because I'm sure that I just caught a glimpse of the link that runs through all of these events.
In that case, counsel, I must demand that you present evidence to the court in support of your claim. What is it that you can explain the motivation for Mr. Shamspeare's alleged crimes?
Is it capital offender file? Let me see, like... only by his cellmate, because he was in jail. Yeah.
Take that!
I think that's it.
That's an official police report, is it not?
The Selden file.
How did you get a hold of that? Selden?
The now sadly deceased Mr. Ross and the defendant Mr. Natsume have only one thing linking them. The fact that they had lodgings in the same room.
Well, yes, we know this, certainly.
A room that was formerly occupied by Selden. Until that is, he was arrested by Scotland Yard for his involvement in multiple burglaries.
I see.
And it so happens that the convict Selden left behind one very substantial mystery when he died. The same £1,000. The sum £1,000 worth of loot he stole, which as yet remains to be found.
Yes, of course, it's coming back to me now. It's written in this file here.
£1,000 lost en route to hell. That was how the paper summed it up. And it seems that one particular fellow inmate was with the convict in his final moments. It's not hard to imagine Selden entrusting that inmate with his most closely guarded secret. The location of the stolen loot, and perhaps a key, to unlock whatever container the valuables were in.
Ah, you mean this key is...
Mr. Shamspeaare, it was you, wasn't it? You were at the capital offender's side when he died, were you not?
What are you talking about? 'Tis a false charge, I tell you. A false charge.
The name of the inmate who was with Selden at his death isn't noted in this file, but a simple telegram to the person that he died would quickly tell us how false the charge really is.
But even if it's true, why would the man be so intent on killing every subsequent occupant of the convict's lodgings?
There's only one explanation for that, my lord. It was in that very room that Selden hid his loot. So it all comes out. Yes, and having established that, all of Mr. Shamspeare's subsequent actions start to make perfect sense. When he was looked at the prison following Selden's death, he made immediately for Mr. Garrett's lodgings in the hope of renting Selden's old room. However, the retired army man was unable to offer him the accommodation of his choice, because Selden's old room had already been let to somebody else, Mr. Duncan Ross. Which is why Mr. Shamspeare subsequently devised his gas-based plot to kill the occupant of the room. And when he was successful, he presumably intended to inquire about switching into the newly vacant room. However, a certain jittery someone had beaten him to it.
Mr. Saseki Natsume, the defendant of this case, no less.
So you decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Mr. Shamspeare? This time to oust Mr. Natsume. I'll be right back. So you decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Mr. Shamspeaare? This time to oust Mr. Nordsmay. All for one simple and a very avaricious reason. To get your hands on the 1,000 pounds of loot left behind by the dead convict. Looks like I'm gonna snuff it before they get to stretch me neck. Listen, I want you to have me loot. Anything to stop the coppers getting their mitts on it. It's hidden in the room where I was lodging when they got me. This is the key to it. Take it. Always stay one step ahead, mate. See you in hell, I guess. Shamspeaare. Oh! It's mine. What did you just say? It's mine. That loot is mine. Oh my. Mr. Shamspeaare, it's all lies. I don't accept any of it. Why should I? After all, you don't have a shred of evidence. You can't prove I killed that fellow. Forsooth, I'm the victim here, remember? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? If I don't admit to it, there's nothing you can do. You can't arrest me, for the time being anyway. Verily, you can't arrest the victim, can you? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I'm so close, I just need a few more hours. I swore to myself that I'd get my hands on it, and I can almost taste it now. Do you really think I'd just give up? There's no question in my mind now. This man is guilty through and through. But he seems so utterly intoxicated by the idea of that loot. I'm afraid that however hard you press him, he'll never admit to what he's done, Mr. Naruhodo. There is a way. Pardon? There's one way. I can finish him. No! He's already committed the most heinous crimes to get his hands on that loot, which means all we need to do is find it first. A fine plan, were it not for the fact that the police thoroughly searched the room following the death of Mr. Ross. If it's there at all, it must be very well hidden indeed.
Without conclusive evidence, I certainly cannot rule.
If only there was some way we could find the convict's loot quickly. This is the final piece in this complex puzzle, but I think we might have it in our possession already. Or rather, I think we may well have something that can help us find where that loot is hidden. My lord.
Yes, Counsel?
The defense would like to make a proposal about how to find the late convict's hidden loot. I believe we are already in possession of something that could give us a clue as to its whereabouts. It's our last chance, so it has to be worth a gamble. Besides, we've used the same technique once already, and it definitely paid off then. Oh, is it the fingerprint machine?
Very well then, Counsel. Let the court hear your idea. What do you propose we can use in order to locate the hiding place of the deceased convict's haul?
Right. Well, we don't have that in evidence. The handprints? Yeah.
Take that!
If I'm not mistaken, those are Mr. Shamspeare's handprints on the wall of his lodgings.
That's right, my lord. Exposed as a result of the defense's independent investigation of the scene. Based on a wonderful new discovery in the field of forensic science by the great detective, Mr. Sholmes. A great detective? Is that some kind of joke? Do you really think I'm going to be daunted by a man with such a ridiculous title? I should think the great bard ought to recognize such a title when he hears one, Mr. Shamspeaare. Perhaps we should compete for the honor of most ridiculous title. Ah, 'tis Herlock Sholmes himself. What are you doing here, great detective? Your usual haunts are the filthy back streets of the capital, are they not? Ah, Mr. Reaper, it's been too long.
And I see your complexion has worsened since the last we met. Mr. Sholmes. He does know Lord Van Zykes, then. Want to say something like that, in any case?
Mr. Sholmes, though you may be heralded as a great detective by the population at large, it does not give you the right to come and go in my courtroom as you see fit.
If I may, my lord, Mr. Sholmes' newly developed scientific method has helped us to uncover vital clues in this case already.
Clues, you say?
I call them skin prints, my lord. My method identifies every location touched by an individual under scrutiny. It's the method by which we were able to ascertain this gentleman's gas pipe activities. You need only a small sample of something the individual has previously touched to make an indicator solution. In your case, sir, I use the teacup you'd been holding. Elementary. So now, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? What am I to use as a sample to make the indicator solution this time? Thank you for offering to help, Mr. Sholmes. When the convict was arrested, he was living in what is now Soseki-san's room. We need a sample to help locate Selden's loot that's hidden in his old room. What form would that sample take? Would it be evidence or a person? Let's see. Let's present a person. Okay. Would it be Natsume? We need something of Selden's in order to create the indicator solution to find his loot. And something the convict owned happens to be in the possession of somebody listed in the court record. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, your powers of reasoning appear to be on the up. So, which particular person do you have in mind? For whom can we attain a possession of the late convict Selden to create the indicator solution? Oh, it's Olive, isn't it? Hang on, where is she? There she is.
Take that!
She's got the key. Miss Green? Me? What do you want with me? The key around your neck, if you please. Sorry? That key belonged to Selden. There will be remnants of secretions from the man's skin on its surface that we can use. Very true. That is the sample we need. Using it, we can create the indicator solution required for Mr. Sholmes' skin print seeker. And find out exactly what Selden touched in the room that he used to rent. Mr. Shamspeaaaare is one great to another, I assure you. The late convict's hole is hidden somewhere in his former lodgings. I shall uncover it in no more than 30 minutes. So, Mr. Shamspeaaaare, the truth is well within our grasp now, and as such, you will never get your hands on Selden's stolen wealth. In that case, I'll gladly let Mr. Sholmes have this key. No! Give the key to me! The detective shan't have it. It's over, Mr. Shamspeaaaare. No. You're out of options now. There's only one thing left for you to do. Admit your guilt. Whoa. Oh, shameful spear. Despair. Be thy name! I never intended to kill the man. I just wanted to drag them out of the room. That's all. So you'd have time to find the convict's haul of stolen goods. Yet after you'd killed the young man, you still didn't move into the room. I asked the landlord, of course. I pleaded with him, but he refused. Why? I was 3 months behind with the rent, for one thing. Mr. Garrideb really has had a lot to put up with. And he had the gas repair work done immediately afterwards, putting the room out of action for a while. And then this Japanese man swooped in at just the right moment to sign the new lease. Poor Mr. Natsume. What unfortunate timing. Then, 5 days ago, After the incident on Briar Road, when the Japanese fellow got himself arrested, I thought I'd finally have my chance. But it wasn't to be. No, the scene was sealed off and guarded by the police night and day. And if I remember rightly, Mr. Sholmes spent the whole day in there reading books. I couldn't even enter the room, let alone search for the loot. Which is why, on the day Mr. Natsume was acquitted and returned to his room, he once again tried your trick of blowing air into the gas pipe that feeds the stove in his room. Unbeknownst to you, however, that action would lead you into a deadly trap. William Shamspeaaaare, how does it go? To be or not to be? That is the question. From Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1. Well, let me tell you, in your case, it's not to be. That is the answer. You deserve to die for what you've done.
Well, interesting.
First, I really did think it was just a terrible accident. I'll never forget our conversation the night before Duncan died. The gas supply in my new lodgings are a complete disaster, you know, Olive. The gas supply? Yes, the stove always seems to go out in the middle of the night for some reason. That's no joke. They say it's the convict's curse. Oh, Duncan, please, don't stay there. I don't care how cheap it is. Alright then, if it's that important to you, I'll start looking for a new place. There are spare rooms at my house. Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight? No, I'd better not. We said we'd wait until we'd graduated before we told our parents, remember? But that was the last time we ever spoke. The very night he fell victim to the gas. If only I'd known it was going to happen, I'd have insisted he left that horrible room that instant. But instead, all I've been left with is bitter regret. I stopped going to school, but something kept drawing me back to the house on Briar Road. I saw a stooped, eastern-looking man with a mustache coming out of the house one day when I was there. He walked up the road to Grub's Grubbery for some food, so I followed him. I sat myself down next to him. He had some watery-looking soup, started to pick a quarrel with the publican. This place is cursed, I tell you, cursed! The ghost of that convict who used to live there is trying to suffocate me. I wake up in the middle of the night, freezing to death because the stove has gone out. The room is full of gas and I can hardly breathe. But the pipes have been checked, no problem there. It's like, I'm the problem. That's what they're thinking. But how could that be? Duncan was gone and now this man had almost suffered the same fate. Could it really be a curse? Then I remembered. The rumor I'd heard about how the gas companies go around investigating the gas installations.
A rumor? Oh, you mean...
Yes, everybody's heard the stories, it seems, about how they go around checking the pipes. Now anything connected to the gas can be extinguished by blowing into the pipework. That's when it started. A little flicker of doubt in the back of my mind that just wouldn't go away. It wasn't really an accident, though. Once I'd had the idea, it wouldn't leave me alone. It plagued me day and night. So I bought this at one of the black markets in the East End. A black market? I'd never been. I just heard people talk about them. And you really can buy anything you can think of there. In some ways, being able to get my hands on this so easily made me even more determined. I had to find out, one way or another, was Duncan's death an accident? Or was it murder? And your chosen method for establishing the truth was simple, but highly effective. Smear poison on the gas pipe you suspected the man of tampering with, and... Wait. If Mr. Shamspeaare was innocent, nothing would come of what you've done. But if he was guilty, he would pay for his crimes dearly. I found out the name of the man I suspected, William Shamspeaare. And then I wrote him this little note. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter, or the meeting. It is a matter of most importance. If he'd done it, I knew that would worry him enough, so he'd be sure to go. So I waited to see if it worked. And of course, Mr. Shamspeaare followed the instructions to the letter. I worked out where the gas pipe was straight away, so I smeared a good amount of the poison I'd bought all around the mouth of the pipe, all the time praying that the devil's work wouldn't be done, and that it was all just some wild fantasy. Actually, no. All the time praying that the devil's work would be done, and that the culprit would get his just desserts.
Okay.
"3 days ago, when you first stood in the dock before me, this whole affair seemed relatively straightforward.
Yes, my lord.
I certainly never imagined the depths of depravity that we would subsequently find lurking behind the scenes.
It has been a long road, my Nipponese friends. Oh, yes. And one I certainly didn't envisage walking with you.
Nevertheless, together we have reached the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. Miss Green,
Yes, my lord.
you will henceforth be stripped of your freedom, and as punishment for the attempted murder of Mr. William Shamspeaare.
Yes, I know.
And you, Mr. Shamspeaare, you will be tried for the murder of Mr. Duncan Ross in cold blood, and the subsequent attempted murder of Mrs. Seki Natsume here present.
Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes.
Yesterday at the hospital, when you and your friends stopped me from ending your life by drinking what was left in the poison bottle. I wasn't myself. I can't even really remember what was going through my mind. To be or not to be, I suppose. That's a question that's so hard to answer, isn't it? It seems. Well, personally, I'm glad of your being here, Miss Green. Oh, and I'd like to believe that it's a blessing Mr. Shamspeaare didn't die when he ingested the poison. For your sake, at the very least. Because of you, I chose life, not death. And now you've made the truth come out at last. Really, I can't thank you enough. Oh, Miss Green.
Mr. Seki Natsume,
Yes, my lord.
the court declares that you are exonerated from all blame in this matter. Accordingly, I would call upon the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to present a verdict of not guilty. We are in full agreement, my lord. In that case, I hereby declare the defendant
Not guilty.
not guilty.
Wait a minute, two of you are still on black.
Court is adjourned.
February, 3:24 p.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber.
Oh, yes, yes. At last. Divine justice duly done.
Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there were any divine justice in this world, you would shave that mustache.
No, this has nothing to do with my mustache.
Some say that a luxuriant mustache is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Sholmes.
Welcome, student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Once again, you've saved me from doom.
I'm very happy to have been able to help, Mr. Natsume. Congratulations on your acquittal. Your second in almost as many days.
I was
was first acquitted with and gained affection for English literature. Acquainted. Acquitted. I was first acquitted. I was first acquainted with and gained affection for English literature whilst in our great homeland empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet here. In the end, I confined myself to my room and lived life through friendly old books. You've had such a difficult time, haven't you?
Ah, but a week ago now, I dragged you onto that dock and ditchy room of yours, did I not?
You did, and I've seen more of life in this week than in all my years to date. And for the first time, I feel I've begun to see the true face of the English. It's so far been hiding from me behind a wall of fog.
My dear fellow, there is nothing special about the true face of the English, as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in the world, humans are human. There are few genuine differences.
Yes, I think you're right. I've finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I've worked out why I was attracted to English literature in the first place. It made me see that whatever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We're all just doing our best to live. Well said. I've come to feel the same way. I've made a decision, too. I'm going to cut short my study tour here and return to Japan. What? I just wanted to become friends here in England. What a terrible shame. Oh, I know. That does tug at my heartstrings. It really does. But I've decided I'd like to take everything I've learned here in Britain and write something of my own. Novel of sorts, I suppose. Oh my. Shall you be creating your own literature, Mr. Natsume? How wonderful. Oh, well, no. I mean, you wouldn't presume to call it literature?
Why not, when that is precisely the definition, Mr. Mustache?
I suppose you're right, yes. It will, in a way, be literature. But as of now, all I know is that I'd like to try my hand at writing. I have no delusions of grandeur. I, for one, would love to read your work.
Well, all things considered, it may be for the best. After all, you have once again emerged victorious from a battle with the Reaper.
That's very true. And there is no salvation for a person in the dock when the Reaper is the prosecutor.
The desire to return post-haste to the perceived safety of your homeland is one I quite understand.
My goodness, yes. Faced with such a terrifying prospect. Nobody would consider that cowardly, I'm quite sure. But that's not why I'm leaving. I mean it. Rejection. And that was the case that we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago now.
So Seki-san did indeed return to Japan and submitted a report about both cases to the government. It was on reading that report that Professor Mikitoba was prompted to visit the scholar. And barely any time later, Susada-san was given the news that she must return to Japan as well, on the back of a telegram stating falsely that her father had fallen gravely ill.
The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial on the following day, the day that we uncovered the loot hidden by the now deceased convict in his former lodgings. February 24th, 10:13 a.m., Mr. Natsume's room. Oh, well done, Mr. Sholmes. How simply marvelous of you to uncover the secret hiding place in just one day. Wasn't it supposed to take 30 minutes?
As I believe I told you, my dear fellows, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations. Wouldn't you agree, Gregson?
Griggsy's been happily munching in agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley. Happily? I think perhaps humorlessly might be closer to the truth.
So, it transpires the man fashioned a hiding place in the ceiling.
And what's in it? What exactly is the loot?
Let us look then, if you're ready. Let's examine the late burglar's hole.
What is that? What the heck? It looks to be some sort of neckband or collar. A collar? It's huge, though.
And look at all the gemstones set in it. I can see how it was claimed to be worth £1,000. Perhaps I could have it as a belt.
But it's got blood all over it.
Oh, have you noticed on the inside there? There are some dark stains. You don't think there could be blood, do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it.
Also, it says B, and I'm thinking, in the last game, or I guess earlier in this game, however you want to look at it, Hound of the Baskervilles was the book that Sholmes said for her not to publish.
On second thoughts, perhaps I won't have it as a belt. Then, of course, there's this emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown.
What does it signify, do you think?
Oh, I hadn't noticed that. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, Where could it have been?
That's enough of that, I think.
What? What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes? All the color is drained from his face.
Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, aren't you? It could be valuable evidence, after all. It must be kept safely under lock and key.
Yes. Get your grubby hands off that, you lot, and hand it over, now.
I've never seen a collar that large before, and all those jewels certainly look to be extremely valuable. But that's not what stood out the most to me. At least, not once I'd noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of the collar. Those stains. Could they really have been blood? Oh, that was a funny case, wasn't it? But it's all buttoned up now.
And you look very pleased, Iris.
I am, because I was starting to wonder what I could use as the basis of this month's story in the magazine. But this case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating.
You're talking about the latest installment of The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, I presume?
The mystery of the knife and the mist, and the mustache man and the convict's curse, perhaps. I could make it a two-part story. Oh, I can't wait.
A word, please, Iris.
Yes, what is it, Hurley?
I'm sorry, but you can't write about this case. It's out of the question.
What? Why not? It's a great case.
Then I shall have to insist that you limit yourself to the first of your two titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear?
Yes.
Interesting. What Sholmes got,
And so it was that the second of Soseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity. Now, looking back, I feel I understand. I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen. For it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that events began to unfurl again, with an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London.
Oh, that'll be fun. Alright, we wrapped up this case. Save it. All done. Episode 3, The Return of the Great Departed Soul. That'll be interesting. But that'll be for next time. I'll see you all later.